Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's go ahead and wrap up week 29 with Silmarillion Saturday. Now, these Saturdays are our chance to revisit the history and legends of the Elder Days, whether from the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or more. Now, last time we saw the first dawn of the sun, along with a change in the way both the moon and sun traverse the skies of Arda. And finally, we also saw how Tilion just couldn't stick to his job. Today, we get Morgoth's reactions to the new lights, as well as the Valar's decision to finally hide Valinor from the rest of the world. Still, therefore, after the long night, the light of Valinor was greater and fairer than upon Middle-earth, for the sun rested there, and the lights of heaven drew nearer to earth in that region. But neither the sun nor the moon can recall the light that was of old, that came from the trees before they were touched by the poison of Ungoliant. That light lives now in the Silmarils alone. But Morgoth hated the new lights, and was for a while confounded by this unlooked-for stroke of the Valar. Then he assailed Tilion, sending spirits of shadow against him, and there was strife and Ilmen beneath the paths of the stars. But Tilion was victorious. And Arian Morgoth feared with a great fear, but dared not come nigh her, having indeed no longer the power. For as he grew in malice, and sent forth from himself the evil that he conceived, in lies and creatures of wickedness, his might passed into them and was dispersed, and he himself became ever more bound to the earth, unwilling to issue from his dark strongholds. With shadows he hid himself and his servants from Arian, the glance of whose eyes they could not long endure, and the lands near his dwelling were shrouded in fumes and great clouds. But seeing the assault upon Tilion, the Valar were in doubt, fearing what the malice and cunning of Morgoth might yet contrive against them. Being unwilling to make war upon him in Middle-earth, they remembered nonetheless the ruin of Almaren, and they resolved that the like should not befall Valinor. Therefore, at that time, they fortified their land anew, and they raised up the mountain walls of the Pelori to sheer and dreadful heights east, north, and south. Their outer sides were dark and smooth, without foothold or ledge, and they fell in great precipices, with faces hard as glass, and rose up to towers with crowns of white ice. A sleepless watch was set upon them, and no pass led through them, save only at the Calakiria. But that pass the Valar did not close because of the Eldar that were faithful. And in the city of Tirion, upon the green hill, Finarfin yet ruled the remnant of the Noldor in the deep cleft of the mountains. For all those of elven race, even the Vanyar and Ingwe, their lord, must breathe at times the outer air and the wind that comes over the sea from the lands of their birth. And the Valar would not sunder the Teleri wholly from their kin. But in the Calakiria they set strong towers and many sentinels, and at its issue upon the plains of Valmar a host was encamped, so that neither bird nor beast, nor elf nor man, nor any creature beside that dwelt in Middle-earth could pass that leaguer. And in that time also, which songs called Nurtele Valinoriva, the hiding of Valinor, the enchanted isles were set, and all the seas about them were filled with shadows and bewilderment. And these isles were strung as a net in the shadowy seas from the north to the south, before Tol Eressëa, the lonely isle, is reached by one sailing west. Hardly might any vessel pass between them, for in the dangerous sounds the waves sighed forever upon dark rocks shrouded in mist. And in the twilight a great weariness came upon mariners and a loathing of the sea. But all that ever set foot upon the islands were there entrapped, and slept until the change of the world. Thus it was that, as Mandos foretold to them in Ahriman, the blessed realm was shut against the Noldor. And of the many messengers that in after days sailed into the west, none came ever to Valinor, save one only, the mightiest mariner of song. I love that. So Morgoth assails the moon, but loses, and he fears the sun far too much to assail her. He's a coward, really. But I really want to draw your attention to that line, as he grew in malice And as his might passed into the evil that he'd created, the lies and the creatures, that he became ever more bound to the earth. Love that. We also get an explanation here for why his orcs could not long endure the sun, right? And then finally, the Valar remembered the destruction of the lamps in the land of Almarin. This is a long time ago. So they raised up the Pelori even higher than they already were, and they made the smooth east faces like glass. Only the pass of Calakiria still remained, but it was so heavily guarded, you couldn't get through. And then there's a textual ruin that I love. There are songs about the Nurtele Valinoriva, songs that we don't get to hear. And then there's another mention of the change of the world, and that's going to be, of course, when the world goes from being flat to being spherical. We get mention of the Blessed Realm being shut against the Noldor, of course, in fulfillment of prophecy, and the foreshadowing of Eärendil. For now, though, folks, that does it for this week's Silmarillion Saturday. Thank you for joining me this week, and please come back next week as we pick another chapter to walk our way through slowly, since this one has finally come to an end. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout, a bonus weekly episode, and more. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @TolkienTimes on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.